Hi, this is Josh Walrath from PC Perspective, and today we've got a special review for you. It is the Thrustmaster TCA Officer Pack Airbus Edition. Now, this is a stick and throttle set offered by Thrustmaster. This is based on the Airbus throttle and stick system in their current line of aircraft. Now, obviously, it is made of two parts, the stick and the throttle. This one is a standard USB-A connector. And this actually has a C to A connectivity, as well as you can attach pedals to it. So, let's go into each of these individual things. Now, these are heart-based actuators, I guess you would call them. But essentially, it is the Hall effect. It's a magnetic sensing technology that Thrustmaster has used for years on wheels and other joysticks. First things first, this is a fairly solid stick. It's, again, modeled after the Airbus aircraft side stick. It has a couple of really interesting features. You can swap out these buttons back and forth. So you could have it as either a left stick, which is captain of the aircraft, or a right stick, which is the first officer. And in the back here, you can actually see it's got a setting that you can change one to the other, and you can make that match with what Airbus has in their actual things. Now, this is probably about 3 pounds at most. I mean, it's not overly heavy. However, it does have good sticky feet. It's got enough heft so that when you're jamming on it, on even an unsupported desk and not even bolted down onto a sim or anything, it's not moving around a whole lot. I mean, you've got to get really kind of violent for it to do that. The actuation is nice and smooth. It's a linear kind of feeling. As you go closer to the edge, it gets a little harder to push. And so it's a nice feeling to it. It's very smooth. They've got everything lubricated fairly nicely in there. And even though it is modeled after the Airbus stick, if you've ever actually seen one of those taken apart, it's about 30 pounds worth of actuators and metal and whatever. And so the feeling is not quite the same, but you're not going to buy a 30-pound joystick that takes up about 3 feet of cubic space and is made primarily of aluminum and aircraft parts. This has a plethora of buttons as well as a throttle. It's got the twisting sensation, and there's a button here. You can lock it down so it locks out the twist. So if you've got a pair of rudders with this, it works perfectly fine, and you can get rid of that functionality either through locking it down or through the control settings of whatever game you're playing. So it also has the throttle in the bottom, and it's got sensitivity enough that you can actually use it for thrust reversing. Overall, the hat feels nice. The buttons feel nice. You can feel the actuation on the trigger, which is typically radio, as well as the upper button. So these are all programmable through either Thrustmaster, their configuration utility, or whatever aircraft simulator that you've been using. And for myself, it's been Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, which these products are in fact natively compatible with. And once you plug them in, MSFS 2020 will see them and give you the correct functionality for each of the buttons. Now, the throttle is kind of interesting. It's a little lighter than I expected. I thought there would be a little bit more heft to it because as you're going up and down with the throttles, it's going to move around a little bit. It still has multiple rubber feet. It has these things here. If you look at the back, these are what you use when you use add-ons. So you can unclip these out of here, unscrew them, clip them on there, screw in the add-ons, which you could do either one of two. Well, you can do 3 things. You can add a second quadrant. Well, you can actually a bi-quadrant. Anyway, you could add a second throttle set, so you can have 4 engines. You can have, pretty much a big fistful of throttles, or you can have the extras on there, which, no one that has the parking brake, landing gear, flaps, extra buttons. And so those are two pieces that are about $109 for the pair, which is a little expensive for what you get. But if you're a hardcore simulator, you'll probably want that. My Thrustmaster does have a captain's pack, which already includes those, and that's about $280. So if you were to do these separately with the officer's pack, the add-ons, it would actually be cheaper than the full captain's pack. The throttle mechanism itself is very smooth. It feels good. It's got the I think it's detente, where you get the feeling of where you go a couple of levels of thrust, and it's sensitive enough, and it doesn't snap in, that you can do smaller increments of actual thrust. My brother is a pilot. He has flown several of the Airbus series, and he claims that the feeling is almost exactly like what you have in the aircraft. It is a little heavier in the aircraft. There is some more resistance, but the way it clicks in there is exactly the same. Now, what's nice about this as well is you can increase the resistance if you would like by using the tool that is given to you with this. And as you can see, you can go one way or the other. You can make it looser, you can make it tighter, whatever you feel like. You can adjust this to your whim. The switches are nice. I mean, they have a good click to them. It's a good feeling. They're not chintzy. This does have the thrust reversal, so you've got the thrust reversal little latches that you can't go beyond that, and then thrust reverse back. And that's just like in the actual Airbus cockpit. So overall, these have been really, really fun and interesting products to play with. I do use the left-hand stick because I want to be the captain of the ship. Who doesn't? But you have to kind of, if you're right-hand dominant, you got to work a little bit to get the feeling and everything down. But in the end, it's kind of worth it because that's how the real thing flies. You don't want to be a first officer all your life. Maybe some people do, but I expect more out of you. So anyway, for $129.99, these are a fun set of throttle and stick products for a variety of flight simulators. Again, what I'm primarily playing these days is Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, and this is an excellent addition. You just got to remember what buttons are which. I was thinking about getting the extra pieces for this to do flaps, parking brake, landing gear, a couple of extra things, which are really handy to have because, again, trying to figure out these 12 buttons and remembering which one each one does, as well as keyboard commands, it's nice to have that little extra there. But for $130 they're offering now, and I don't know if this is going to go up after the holiday season. Sometimes there is fluctuation with the Thrustmaster parts. These are fun little products, and they're easy to calibrate. You do have to calibrate this after you plug it in. And this is very, very simple. They have it online. It's like you press down these two buttons. You press down the two buttons, you plug it in, you let the buttons go. You go to the first, you click these two red buttons there. You go to the second, click the red buttons. Third, red buttons. Go back down to thrust reverse, click those, and click a button, and you're done. That's calibration. And I found that you do need to do that every once in a while. Otherwise, you're going from like 0 throttle to 100% when you don't want to. And it gets really kind of crazy, and thrust reverse doesn't work. So yes, if you do end up buying these, make sure you look up exactly how to calibrate them because it's well worth it. This calibrates by itself. So you don't need to go into Windows and do that whole, 360 degrees, do left, right, up, down. All those things tend to be self-calibrated, and they work fine out of the box. I have enjoyed my time with these. They've been a lot of fun to play with. It's a little bit more authentic feeling when actually flying, and you've got your hands on a pair of throttles. instead of going to your keyboard and hitting plus and minus, or taking your mouse and adjusting the throttles on the screen. It's easy to do. You keep your hands on the stick and throttle. HOTAS, hands on throttle and stick. If you didn't know what that was, then now you know. But anyway, excellent parts for the price. $189 still feels a little bit higher. They quickly went down in price, and again, at $130, I think that it's a really effective product for that price. The only downside is, for some reason, we've gotten away from forced feedback on sticks, and so there's no forced feedback on this as compared to like my old Microsoft Signed Widener Pro 2, which was an awesome joystick for years and years and still works after, I think it's honestly been 22 plus years that I've had that. And it would be nice if Thrustmaster and others could work with partners to get force feedback back into the game, because I'll tell you, in real life, the Airbus itself, when you're going into a stall, your stick will shake. And if you're flying a Cessna 172, you're going to have the feeling of you going at higher speeds. You'll have harder pull back when you're going to elevate, and again, you'll get the feeling of instability when you're going into stall. And it's nice to have that feeling, especially when flying the smaller aircraft, as compared to just visual simulations, and then you'll hear the squeaking of the stall indicator and whatnot. But it'd be nice to get a little bit more of that feedback from the joystick. But I am not the only person who is complaining about this. Hopefully in the next few years we'll see a change. But otherwise, I think this is an excellent product. It's a very competitive price. It offers a lot of functionality. It offers some flexibility in what you can do. I know when I first got this, I didn't notice, but there was a switch here that says 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So if you're only using a single throttle set, it's got to be on 1 and 2. When it came to me, this was on 3 and 4, and I had no clue as to why it wasn't working in Microsoft Flight Sim, why it wasn't being detected. Finally, I read the instructions and noticed that, yes, there was this little switch in the front, and you pop it over, and like magic, everything works. So we will give this the Gold Award from PC Perspective. Again, it's an excellent set of products for a reasonable price. They are modeled after the actual Airbus equipment. So if you are an Airbus fan, or even just an airliner fan in general, this is a nice little set of simulator gear to use in the games that you love. And with that, I will sign off. This is again Josh Walrath for PC Perspective, and thanks for watching.